1, 2, 3, 4.
Springtime, 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 springtime.
It's my screen time too.
Springtime, springtime.
Hello, and welcome to It's My Screen Time Too, the podcast where two moms review the best and worst in children's programming, from Netflix reboots and YouTube shorts to Disney classics and Pixar blockbusters. We watch, you listen. Find out what you can tolerate watching for family movie night, what to avoid altogether, and what you'll want to watch alone voluntarily. I'm Katie.
And I'm Deborah.
And I have two kids. Jay, he's almost 5, and Kenny, he's 1.
And I have 3 kids. Tony is 10, and Libby and Nate are 7. They are so adorable, aren't they, Katie?
24/7 adorableness. It's true.
We like to tell a quick story about how awesome or sometimes awful our kids are because in addition to being witty and incisive pop culture consumers, we're moms too. Do you want to go first?
Sure. Mine might involve me making some big booming noises, which might not translate very well on the podcast, but we'll see what I can do.
Okay.
So you remember how last week I was talking about the joy of competition shows to watch with the family? A la
Yes.
The Floor is Lava. So we finished all of The Floor is Lava. We've moved on to Ultimate Beastmaster. And we're now at this crucial turning point where Kevin and I need to decide as a family if we're just going to be one of those houses where it's okay to climb all over everything, because that is where we are rapidly headed with all the obstacle course shows we've been watching. And we recently got an end table for our couch that is just a giant drum.
Oh, cool.
It's a lot of fun, and the kids love playing with it. I do not find it annoying yet. Usually it sounds like this, bada 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 bum, and they like play it until they get sick of it, and then they run away and they do something else. So I can kind of tell like where they're at and what they're doing by that like nice sound that they have going on. But lately it's been like just a resounding boom, because Jay is like doing amateur parkour off the couch and he decides to like
jumping onto it.
Yes. So that's a little worrisome. I mean, it's fun that he gets so enthusiastic about it, but it is definitely a different soundscape in our house these days.
Where did you find this drum / table?
One of our babysitters does estate sales.
Oh, I love estate sales.
And in that like brief weirdo window when like it was like 2 weeks where like cases were down pretty low in Florida and like everything was opening back up, she did an estate sale and let us have like a peek beforehand. So we got to go in
nice.
before everyone else, and that's where we got the drum table.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's my noisy story for the day. How about your kids? What have they been up to?
Well, this is a true pandemic quarantine story. So the Minnesota Zoo is not open for business as usual, but they were like running out of money, super out of money. So they are doing like it's called a Beastly Boulevard. So you can pay $50 to drive through the zoo and see some animals. And it's not a zoo that's designed for driving through.
Right.
We did it. There were like 10 million cars lined up to get in at 11 a.m. on a Monday, as we were. And it was like our main activity for the day. And it's like basically driving on like service roads, I think, in the zoo. And it's pretty short. And you see like a few animals, and it was really disappointing. And when it was over, Libby just burst into tears. And the reason she said she was crying was because we only saw prey. We didn't get to see any predators.
She's a fan of the big cats.
She loves the big cats. There were no big cats on the Beastly Boulevard. And it was like the funniest, saddest car ride ever.
Oh, I am so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, but it was still adorable. um, so I don't really recommend the Beastly Boulevard, but if you have nothing going on this summer, fellow Minneapolis residents, I mean, it's a good cause.
Yeah,
$50 to the zoo.
we definitely want to do what we can to keep our institutions up and running during this time.
Yeah.
Or not
So,
even running, just like up so they can be running eventually. Oh, I'll get off my soapbox for now. I'm sure I'll get back on. Should we move on?
okay, you picked out a really good screen time in the news article, also pandemic and quarantines related
Times I like it.
from parents.com. And it's like a advice type article answered by a PhD, Emily Edlin, and the title is How Do I Get Me Time Without Relying on Screen Time? And it's from somebody writing in who like has a kid who just needs constant parent engagement, and this mom is like, I have chores. I'd like to also get a little time for myself, but she doesn't want her to make her a TV junkie. And the answer was nice and reassuring, basically saying screen time's different than when we were kids. Kids are getting a lot of screen time. There's a pandemic. Nobody really knows what's happening. Don't worry too much about it. A little bit of a show. And she mentions that like things geared towards preschoolers or toddlers are pretty short. So like a 20-minute cartoon is not going to make your child brain damaged, basically.
But she didn't give any examples. Emily, you should have called us.
Yeah, she said Dora the
Oh,
Explorer
that's true.
is what she introduced her toddler to at the end. But yeah, we've got lots of recommendations. It reminded me, this article, about how hard it is when your kids are really young because you cannot leave them alone at all.
Mhm.
Like, I'm past that point. My kids are 7, 7, and 10, so they can play independently for
Right.
a while.
Yeah.
But you're right in that
w-
toddler
mhm.
baby stage where you can't get anything done unless Kenny is, I don't know, napping.
Well, I am a sucker for advertising, as you know. So, like, I
Hmm.
keep buying toys that are supposed to be, like, super engaging. Like, the mythical toy that, like, just he can sit with for hours and be learning fine motor skills, but also not bothering me.
Hmm.
But spoiler alert, parents, those toys don't really exist. Except for like the rare child that is able to devote that kind of attention to something at 18 months or 2 years old. So yeah, we definitely do use screen time for definitely cooking dinner. Like, I feel like there's no way that Kevin can wrangle both boys and like reliably keep them both out of the kitchen where hot stuff is happening
Yeah.
without the TV during that time.
But making dinner isn't me time,
No,
Katie.
you're totally right. You're totally right. And we are guilty of, I shouldn't even say it that way. We use screens for that purpose. And I've come
It's
to
fine.
embrace it. It's fine. My kids are smart. They seem to be developing normally. And sometimes I think there can be value in it. Like, you know, teaching your kid how to vault 6 feet through the air and land nimbly on the arm of a chair.
Yeah. I guess I would consider this podcast me time at the moment. My kids are on screens right now because otherwise they wouldn't be like, they can play independently, but they would not be quiet enough
Right, right.
to facilitate recording a podcast.
Jay is in full on narration mode, so he will play independently, but approximately every 30 seconds he has to come up to me and just tell me what he's been doing. and or just like ask me to watch. So it's not like he needs me to be actively playing with him, but he still needs pretty active input.
That's cute.
But I really like this article too because I think anything that can encourage parents to cut themselves a little slack, remind us that we are humans too, is a good.
Yeah, totally.
Do we have any follow up from our last episode? Deborah, did you watch any more number blocks?
I did watch 19 per your recommendation, and I watched it by myself. It was really cute. You guys, if you haven't yet watched Number Blocks, definitely make time for number 19. Number 19 had a really cute accent, and it was just like prime number problems.
Mm-hmm.
And I love how 19 embraced that she can make crazy shapes on her own instead of symmetrical shapes. Just general news. Did you watch Hamilton?
Of course, we watched Hamilton. Guys, we are recording this episode the week after the 4th of July. It'll be a couple weeks before you guys get it, but Hamilton has now been out for what, 5 days?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We watched it. I was concerned that Disney Plus would be too overwhelmed and it wouldn't work, but it worked. We watched it on July 3rd. It was super good.
Yeah. Did the kids like it?
They loved it.
Yay.
Yeah. Well, actually, my twins loved it. Tony bailed halfway through.
It's a long show.
It is long.
I am also guilty of way preferring the first act to the second act, too. So I feel you, Tony.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. So should we talk about what we watched?
Let's do it, guys. Today we're talking about the new iteration of the Babysitters Club, which just debuted on Netflix on July 3rd, 2020. So as we're recording this, that was just a few days ago. And it is an adaptation of a beloved book series, the first installment of which was published in 1986. It's had a couple of previous TV and movie adaptations. I think the most prominent one was a 1995 movie, and then there was a brief 1990 television show that got far less attention, I think. The new series is produced by Ashley Glazer, who is also responsible for Glow on Netflix. 8 of the 10 episodes were directed by Lucia, apologies again for pronunciations, Agnello, who worked on Broad City. So these are 2 high-profile women, and there are tons of women in the top roles in this show, which I think, as we'll get to later, really shows in the final product. So we picked this because, as you all know, I passionately loved number blocks, and I was a little worried that I wouldn't be able to find something I would like as much. But as soon as I read even one review of this new adaptation of the Babysitters Club, I had a glimmer of hope, and I was so excited to watch it and talk about it with you, Deborah. I was also squarely in the Babysitters Club demo growing up. Were you?
Yes, I was a super fan.
Yeah, this is gonna be good.
I watched that 1990 show.
I tried to. At the time, like, you could only get it like episode by episode on VHS tapes that were really hard to come by. I don't know where it actually aired. Did you see it actually on TV?
I'm certain I saw it on TV and like made it was appointment television for me. I don't remember the details, like what channel it was on or anything, but I remember I was like there for it and was super disappointed by it because the characters didn't look like they looked in my head from reading the books.
Or on the book covers.
Right.
So what did we watch? We watched episode 1, Kristy's Big Idea. We watched episode 4, Maryann Saves the Day, and episode 8, Boy Crazy Stacy. So as usual, we'll go through the episodes really quickly one by one, and then, well, maybe less quickly this time. I feel like there's a lot to unpack episode by episode, but then we'll move on to our more general thoughts. So Deborah, do you want to take us through Kristy's Big Idea?
Sure. So it's Kristy's Big Idea, just like the book, but updated with current technology, current cultural references, and more current fashion. So I found it was pretty true to the book and the origin story Babysitters Club super fans or even not so super fans will be familiar with.
Yeah, it was a really, I thought, pretty faithful adaptation, certainly of the big points that I remembered from the first book.
Yes, and the characters all fit the roles that they are supposed to play. Like Claudia's the creative, cool one, and Maryann's the shy, conservative one with the strict dad, and Kristy is the bossy one.
Speaking of updated fashions, what's with Kristy's turtlenecks?
I think they said in a later episode that she's the normcore one.
Yeah, but is that even a normcore thing? Who is wearing turtlenecks?
I don't really know what kids these days are wearing.
That's fair.
Besides, like, really high-waisted jeans.
I mean, Kristy was always supposed to be the sporty one, so I guess I would see her wearing a lot of Spirit jerseys. I don't know why they landed on turtlenecks. It's weird to me. Okay, that's a little nitpicky.
Can we just talk about Alicia Silverstone?
Oh, please, yes.
So I was really excited to see Alicia Silverstone. I'm a super fan ever since Clueless came out. And I think she and I are like just about the same age. And I found it really insulting that she is the mom to teenagers in this episode, in this series. And I know that's how Hollywood works. Like, it's possible she's old enough to be the mom of teenagers, but it's unlikely in her socioeconomic world. So I don't know. I just hate it when they cast like women who are kind of too young to be in that role.
But I feel like a lot of actors and actresses in Hollywood that have not had that much success after an iconic role as a child or as a teen, I kind of feel like they've been lining up to play these I'm the parent now roles.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And this is a total diversion, but remember when she was in the news and she had a baby and she was like feeding the baby like a bird, like she was chewing up the food?
That was kind of wacky.
That was super disgusting.
Because it was right around the same time that Mayim Bialik came out with like her child rearing books that were like co-sleeping forever.
Parent, right? Yeah.
So to me, it just kind of blended into that landscape of, whoa, ladies, let's take a step back.
Right. Okay. Sorry for that tangent.
Oh, no, we'll have way more because I also want to talk about my love for Mark Feuerstein that plays Brewster, the love interest for Alicia Silverstone. Oh my gosh, that actor. Can he please be in everything?
Oh.
Okay, so Maryann saves the day. So this episode was really hard to distill into a single sentence. I'll do my best. So we've established that Maryann is the shy one, right? So Maryann struggles with her crippling shyness and immature image, but learns to use her voice when advocating for a young trans client. It felt like they were making a statement with this one. A statement that I thought was great, made me cry. This was the one that I cried at. What was the original Maryann Saves the Day about? Was it just a hospital trip that she had to do?
I have the books right here in my room. Should I get it?
Oh, yeah.
Here it is.
Oh.
And she's like taking the temperature. Do you see the thermometer in the picture?
Yeah, it looks like it was a hospital trip.
Yep.
It's a different situation in this episode. They've updated it so Maryann has a climactic interaction with the doctor and nurse, explaining to them that they need to treat Bailey like a human being and not just look at the chart and see that biologically he might be a boy. They need to treat their patient as their patient wants to be treated. And it was a great moment of showing Maryann standing up. It was a great moment of showing the humanity of the trans community. I just thought really lovely.
It was really good. I didn't cry. You cried.
Oh, yeah. I cried.
And no, I did. I totally cried.
Maryann and her father also have a really complicated relationship because her mother passed away and His father is a little unsure about how to interact with his soon-to-be teenage daughter. The father is played by Mark Evan Jackson, who I recognize the most from his role as a demon on The Good Place. So it was kind of weird to see him being a real human being, but I just thought their interactions, the tentativeness with which they approached each other was so honest and different, a different way to see a father-daughter interaction on television. I like that quite a bit too.
This is the one where Maryann meets Dawn.
Oh yeah.
So Dawn has moved from California to Stony Brook, and she makes these cracks about being from California because she has like a kale juice and salad for lunch or something she's eating with chopsticks. And she takes Maryann to like a Wiccan celebration ceremony. And I'm just like, back in the day, California definitely had that like new agey reputation. But does that hold up?
That's a legitimate question. I mean, to me, this is just California-ness of it. She addressed explicitly about the food, but I kind of got the feeling like the Wiccan ceremony was more an idiosyncrasy of her family because the solstice circle was being led by her aunt, who is is it still Connecticut or did they move it somewhere else?
I think they're in Connecticut.
Okay. It was being led by her aunt, who is from Connecticut. So I guess maybe I just glossed over in my brain if they did make explicit mention of the new aginess relating to being from California. But I don't know. I feel like it still does kind of have that reputation for the rest of the country.
Okay. My other question is, it's so interesting now to be watching this as a parent from that perspective. Like when I read the books, I was just reading it from a kid perspective, like the babysitter perspective. But what would you do if you had a sitter call 911 and have your child rushed to the hospital for a fever?
Didn't she say the fever was over 104 degrees?
Yeah, but like, wouldn't you at least want the babysitter to try Tylenol first?
That's a good point.
Or a cool bath?
Which is, I'm sure, something we will address, and maybe we should just get it out in the open now. We live in a fundamentally different world from the world when Anna and Martin first wrote these books. These girls are supposed to be 12 years old. They explicitly say it's the summer before 7th grade.
Yeah.
That's really young for a modern babysitter. I do not know another mother that employs babysitters that young who aren't members of her direct family. Do you?
I had a pretty young babysitter when Libby and Nate were babies, and she was more like a mother's helper. Like she would come over and help out when I was home. Yeah. And I never really left the house or the property when she was there.
Exactly. And like, is your average 12-year-old even allowed to like self-administer medications? No, like they're not getting themselves Tylenol when they have a headache. They're probably asking their parents. So like, I can see not knowing that was a solution, I guess.
Yeah.
They're 12 years old. They start this club together, and the only experience they have is that Kristy and Maryann have watched Kristy's younger brother.
Right.
Again, as a parent, would you hire a 12-year-old with that resume to watch your kids?
I would want them to have at least taken the Red Cross babysitter certification class, which is like a thing that you can take through community education.
Yeah. You're right. Maybe they should have added that as a plot point, because that was the big glaring, everything that they've done to update and modernize. For the most part, I applaud. I think it's great. Everything looks great. The characters are great. I'll stop saying great. But this seems like a fundamental stumbling block to modernizing the show that they just conveniently ignored.
Right.
We actually have a listener and a friend who follows the actress. I don't even know that she's an actress. This may have been her first acting role, that plays Bailey, the trans girl in the episode. So she follows that actress closely on social media, and she just had a few things to say. So I'm going to just pause for a second so we can play a little bit of her voice message here.
Hi, this is Carrie Katz. As a child of the 80s, I was really excited to see a new reboot of the Babysitters Club on Netflix. I especially enjoyed episode number 4, Maryann Saves the Day. When I was watching the episode, I recognized the actress playing Bailey as Kai Shapley. I've been very familiar with Kai Shapley and her mother Kim for several years now. Beginning in 2017, I believe, Kai and Kimberly fought very hard against the quote-unquote bathroom laws. Having a trans child has actually transformed Kimberly Shapley. She was very conservative Christian. However, pretty much as soon as Kai could speak, she let everyone know that she is a girl. And at first, this didn't sit well with Kimberly. Kimberly did a lot of soul searching and studying on her own and realized that she needed to love the child that she had, Kai. And you can read a lot more about this journey on blogs that Kimberly has shared. So with this fierce mama bear doing everything that she could to get Kai her passport,
Katie here, Babysitters Club films in Vancouver.
She was able to play a trans character. There's just no words. There's so many different emotions about being represented. And this production company that's making the Babysitters Club, making sure to cast a trans person as a trans character is so empowering to everyone. So as the episode goes on, Maryann finds out that Kai is transgender. And when Maryann is speaking with Dawn about this, I think how Dawn explains transgender is the outsides matching the insides is so simple and such a concise way to explain transgendered persons to teens and children. Ultimately, I feel like this episode wasn't just an episode introducing the ideas of gay and transgender to younger audiences. To me, it was about advocacy for yourself and for others who aren't or don't know how to advocate for themselves. I am looking forward to seeing how and what this series continues to do to broaden the horizons of children and young teens.
Carrie, thank you so much for your thoughtful commentary. I think all we can say is that we heartily agree with you. We loved the representation and the inclusivity present in this episode, and it really contributed a lot to how much we ended up liking the series. Thank you again.
Let's move on to Boy Crazy Stacy.
All right.
So in this episode, Maryann watches the Pike kids at the beach for a week, while Stacy tries to flirt with a cute lifeguard.
Now, this is something I thought was weird as a child reading these books, and I still think is weird as an adult. The Pike family has like a lot of kids.
6 or 7? Yeah.
And they're hiring 2 babysitters, which, yes, I would hire 2 babysitters for that number of kids. I would maybe hire more babysitters than that. But like to go on a week-long vacation with them, I just... Would you feel comfortable leaving your kids with 2 12-year-olds for a week's vacation, like away from your home, their homes?
Not on the beach. I felt like that was really unsafe, especially because Stacy is like making gaga eyes at the lifeguard, not watching the kids at all, and then the other kids buried Maryann in the sand and she couldn't get out. And so then where were the kids? The parents were sleeping in. Where were the kids? Some of
Exactly.
them were really little.
Although I did love that moment when Maryann was like having lunch with all of them and some of them started like throwing food around and you could just see it in her face. She was like, I just have to let this happen. Like I am not in control.
Yeah.
Maryann, I feel you. I feel that daily. The whole plot trope of parents taking babysitters on long vacations was used a lot in the Babysitters Club franchise. And
Yeah.
it made for some really good books. I don't know if you were a super special reader or if you just stuck to the original books, but I loved
Oh no, I
the
read
super
all
specials.
the super specials.
The one where they went on the cruise and then went to Disney World.
Yeah.
That was my fave. Who's taking their teenage babysitters on cruises?
Are you suggesting it's implausible because of their age? Because weren't you going to take a babysitter on a flight with you?
I was, yeah, and it seemed crazy. It seemed like
Oh.
the most extravagant thing I could do.
Oh, okay. I don't think it seems crazy. I have never done it, but I know like several families who have au pairs and they take the au pair on vacation.
Which maybe I should get out of my that mindset because it would be a lot easier to bring a babysitter with me on vacations.
I think it's a great idea because you could like go out to dinner, just you and Kevin, to like a non-family friendly restaurant and not worry about anything.
I applaud the idea. I would love to do it more. I'm sure it's just my internalized mom guilt that is like, I shouldn't need this extra help on vacation. Or like my internalized frugality that's like, oh, this is not an absolutely necessary expense. What am I doing this for? Essentially, I have a lot of issues is my point. So good on the Pikes that they can afford 2 12-year-olds to take on this vacation, this beach vacation.
They probably paid them like $60.
I know, right? And
for
they
the
got
trip, not
they got
per
one
day.
night off. That was their only time off. What did you think about Stacy? Were you cringing as much for her as I was? I am super uncomfortable with embarrassment television. Like anytime I see someone embarking on an embarrassing situation, I just want to like walk away until it's over. And this really was quite embarrassing.
Yeah, she was really pathetic. Really pathetic.
But
to an unbelievable degree.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. But then it was so clear that her character just like really wants to be in a relationship because then at the end when the cute Canadian kid gives her the seashell book, she's like, oh, how are we going to get through immigration when we get married? And he was not even like a factor. He had not even registered on her radar until he showed some interest in her.
I don't know. Did you have that phase as a kid?
Well, for sure.
Yeah,
of course.
It was very true to life and adorable, but also 1000% cringeworthy.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say that we are both fans of this concept since we so liked Babysitters Club growing up. Did you read all the like side series? Because in addition to just Babysitters Club original, we mentioned the super specials, which were like bigger books that came from multiple sitters' perspectives. But then there were also the Babysitters Club mysteries. There was a whole series for slightly younger kids called Babysitter Little Sisters. Did you explore any of those?
I had kind of outgrown it by the time the Little Sister books came out, and so I didn't read those. By that time, I had no time for Babysitters Club. I was all Sweet Valley High.
Oh, yeah.
And then like the Christopher Pike books. How about you?
I think I can probably trace my love of mysteries. Like the through line probably went Boxcar Children, Babysitters Club mysteries, and you can follow that through to today. So the big question is, were you a Kristy, a Maryann, a Stacy, or a Claudia?
That's such a good question. I really wished I was like a Claudia or even a Dawn, but I think I was a Kristy. How about you?
Oh, I was a Maryann. I'm a Maryann then and a Maryann now.
Okay. Who do you think the corollary is for the Sex and the City gals?
Oh.
Is Maryann a Charlotte? Are
Yeah.
you more of a Charlotte, I think?
Yeah. Maryann's a Charlotte. Stacy is Samantha, I guess.
Yeah.
Kristy must be Miranda, which means Claudia is
Carrie.
Carrie.
That makes sense.
It's not a perfect one-to-one, but do you think this needed another reboot?
I am here for it. I think it's great. Have you seen? Okay, so my kids like graphic novels so much. There are Babysitters Club graphic novels.
I have seen them. I've actually bought them as gifts for my friends' kids who are older. But yes, I know they're really popular.
Yeah, so I think for the kids who are familiar with those, I think this is great. Babysitters Club reboots forever, especially when they're well done like this.
And it's been so long. It's not as if this is a property that's just been rebooted and rebooted and rebooted, and we've seen it a million times. Like we said, the last reboot was 1995. So I think it was about time. I do wish that they had kind of addressed, like I said, the fundamental difference between the world today and the world then, in that parents have gone a little bit crazier about sheltering their precious babies and would maybe be a little hesitant to just entrust their care to 12-year-olds they learned about via a homemade flyer. Also, I noticed that Kristy, in Kristy's Big Idea, she's a latchkey kid. Like, those still exist.
I know. Do they really in real life? Probably not.
I don't know. I mean, not that I think it's a bad thing, but again, I just think today's parenting environment is so much more claustrophobic than it was then, that the things that they chose to keep the same were a little surprising. So we already talked about Alicia Silverstone and my love, Mark Feuerstein.
But can we talk about where you love Mark Feuerstein from? Did you watch Good Morning Miami?
No, I will 100% tell you why I love him.
Katie, you have to watch Good Morning Miami.
I have never even heard of this television show.
If you like this actor, you are gonna love it.
Okay, where can I stream it?
I have no idea.
All right, I'm looking into it. I'm writing it down right now. So there's this awesome is not even the right word. Have you ever seen the movie In Her Shoes?
Oh, yes. Yep.
All right.
Is that Diaz?
That is the root of my love for him. Yes, it's a Cameron Diaz, Toni Collette movie in which he plays like the sensitive love interest who sees this woman's beauty despite all of her insecurities. I mean, really, it's like frickin' Katie Catnip right there.
And it's a Jennifer Weiner book, right?
Yeah, based on a Jennifer Weiner book. I actually heard an interview with her fairly recently because she has a new book out this summer, I believe, in which she was saying how disappointed she was in that adaptation, and it made me kind of sad.
Oh.
Let's talk about the kids, because the one big thing that we have not addressed yet is that they did some switching up of the races from the original books, because in the original books, Claudia was the only person of color in the cast or in the main group until we got to Jessie, of course, junior babysitter, much loved. But in this version, both Maryann and Dawn are played by actresses of color, and I thought that was a really great updating. What did you think?
For sure. I liked that a lot. You know, I liked Mark Evan Jackson, who plays Maryann's dad. But like, why isn't Maryann's dad black?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, the parents could be a little more updated too.
I did, though, in Maryann's interaction with her dad in that episode, Maryann Saves the Day, there was an instance where she was saying, I hate wearing my hair in braids. They make me look like a baby. And he said, look, braids were all your mother taught me how to do. And I think that that is a struggle that a lot of mixed race couples have, because white people don't have any clue how to do hair.
Yeah, true.
So that was maybe a little nod to the fact that their relationship is extra awkward because he can't understand this whole half of her
Hmm.
experience.
Yeah, I thought the casting was so well done. I loved every single Babysitter Club member. I thought that they played the roles really well. Like I had really high expectations, and these characters, like they were like pretty real to me.
Hmm.
And so I thought that they were really good. Really, really good.
You know, it's been a while since we've watched a live action show that is aimed at sort of this young tween demographic. So maybe I'm speaking from a place of not much experience, but it was so lacking in the grading aspects of those shows. I didn't feel like it was super overacted. It felt very true to life. And I just appreciated that so much as a contrast to a lot of the other stuff we've seen.
Yeah, it had kind of more of like a Gilmore Girls feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
That type of show rather than because like the Disney stuff is like so over the top. Like
Right.
the Disney movies. This was more of a Gilmore Girls aesthetic.
Yeah, I feel like it was more respectful to the characters, but also to its audience. Like,
Mm-hmm.
these look like and feel like real girls that you could know.
Totally.
Were you able to compare this to any shows for grown-ups?
I think that the Babysitters Club started my lifelong love for shows or movies with like an ensemble cast of women, like Sex and the City, like Girls.
Golden Girls?
You could say Golden Girls. I was gonna say that movie with Goldie Hawn where they all play like Diane Keaton is in it. They're all like ex-wives.
Oh, the First Wives Club.
Yeah,
Oh,
like just
love it. Yes.
like if there's a movie where there's like four women who all have distinct personalities, that's what I want to be watching.
Okay, so talk to me about that though. Is it realistic that you have like your closest friend group and it's all made up of people who are so fundamentally different?
No, it's not realistic. It's just a Hollywood literary thing, I
Okay.
think. What were you able to were you able to compare it to any grown-up movies or shows?
I mean, my first go to was Sex in the City. I just feel like that's what women of our generation have been trained to look at as the like text for a
Mhm.
show about female friendship. Did you do any casting of the gritty HBO reboot?
This was hard because I thought the casting was so perfect, except for maybe the diversity of the parents. So I went in a different direction. I would love to see a show about a dog sitters club.
Okay.
And I would like it to be like a reality show with, you know, how in Hollywood there are like assistants, like
Yeah, PAs. Yeah.
a lot of PAs. And then it would just show the trials and tribulations of sitting for celebrity dogs.
I'd watch it.
It'd be a little bit like you'd get to see the inside of their homes, like a MTV Cribs
Mm-hmm.
type show, and then also how poorly behaved celebrity pets are, because I bet they're spoiled as hell.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. That sounds good. I like it. Yeah, I too ran into the typical problem when we try to recast shows with young actors just because don't know a ton of up and coming young actors. I did some idle Googling and beyond seeing that like every list of up and coming actors under 20 is just so white. So
Oh,
so
really?
white.
Hmm.
Yes. So the only like really serious young actor I could think of who's been doing good stuff lately is Daphne Keane, who is currently playing Lyra in the new adaptation of His Dark Materials.
Oh, okay.
So she's very good, and I thought could bring some good gravity to a character like, obviously, I'm going to say Maryann because she's my favorite. But as far as a gritty HBO take on it, I would like to see like a David Simon super depressing deep dive into like the problems of being a young person who's in charge of your community's other young people because of systemic economic inequality. Like the parents all have to work at these super low wage jobs, so they can't afford childcare that's not other super young kids, and you just have a level of responsibility for these children that is a lot to be expected of someone so young. I think that could be a nice, depressing David Simon-esque take on the Babysitters Club.
It would probably win an Emmy. Katie, that's a good idea.
All right, I'm writing up the spec script now. So, we were immersed in the Babysitters Club as kids. Do you think it was better when we were kids?
I think that the books are better than the graphic novels. So yes, it was better when we were kids. We had the books and we had our imaginations.
I agree, but I wish this show a long, long life where they get to adapt all the different books, and maybe, 6 years from now we can sit down and say, it's equivalent. We have this wonderful document to young childhood now that is equivalent to what we had when we were kids. But until I see the filmed version of that Disney cruise, I don't know if I'm going to feel that way. Would you ever watch this alone voluntarily?
I would.
Same. Yeah, because I would want to revisit the specific books that I liked the most.
Yeah, definitely.
10 seconds on whether this is good for our kids.
Yeah, I think it's good, especially with seeing the episode 4 with the transgender character and how that was done so well. I think this is great for kids.
And I think, like we were saying earlier, it can speak to their experience in a way that's a little bit more true than a lot of the other content that's out there for them. And that's coming from the perspective of someone who does not have kids that old yet. So check back with me in a few years, I guess. Ratings?
5 stars.
5 stars. Deborah, my heart is so happy being able to do 2 5-star episodes in a row. It's like, just this incredible weight of all this doom and gloom has been lifted off my shoulders. I might just smile for the rest of the day.
Wow. That's awesome. Don't listen to any news reports.
I know. I'll just be in Babysitters Club land for the rest of the day. If you need me, I'll be in Stony Brook.
Thank you for listening to this episode of It's My Screen Time Too. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Check out our website at myscreentime2.com, and you can find us on Facebook to continue the conversation at facebook.com/myscreentime2. That's also where you'll find out what we're covering in our next episode if you want to watch along with us. Tweet us with show or movie suggestions, article recommendations, or general comments at myscreentime2. Email us at myscreentime2@gmail.com. Our theme music was composed and performed by me and my adorable children, and our podcast is produced by Katie. Bye.